for those who don't know, has just done a wonderful cover for Nat Geo. The first of its kind, right, Prasenjeet, and of the black tiger, which is a very rare sighting and a rare thing to record. And it took you a month of tracking to get that wonderful picture. Tell me a little about how you did it and what really draws you to what you do. It's not a very easy thing, to engage in. So, what really draws you to recording, uh, preserving, and also, I think, showcasing India's diversity in wildlife for the world to see? I mean, it's wonderful. And that picture is just amazing. Talk a little about it.
Thank you so much. And first of all, thank you for having me here. And it's lovely to speak to you. I've read about your work in the past. So, so for me, wildlife and nature was part of life. I grew up in the middle of a jungle in central India at my father's
Where?
farm, and near Nagpur city, where my father has a farm which is almost 55 kilometers from Nagpur, and my entire childhood went there, roaming around in forests around there, and we still have wildlife and tigers coming close to our lawn. So it has always
What did
been
your
wildlife
father
as
do? He was a
my father is a farmer. My father is
right,
a farmer, and he
right,
also engages a lot into nature education for school kids around Nagpur city. So
right.
I've had a lineage of doing something like this, which is nature education. And I was always drawn towards wildlife and nature and the mysteries of nature, and I was curious about it. So one way of addressing that curiosity was to get into research. So I studied molecular biology, and then eventually I came to Bangalore to practice research in molecular ecology, where I was studying tigers, but using tiger DNA in Central India, South India, from this research institute called as National Center for Biological Sciences, which is a TIFR institute based in Bangalore. I practiced research for
And
a few years.
where did you study molecular biology?
I studied molecular biology in Nagpur in this college called as Hislop School of Biotechnology. And then I immediately, in my second year, I came to Bangalore to NCBS for my master's dissertation, and I immediately joined the lab of Dr. Ruma Ramakrishnan after finishing my dissertation. And while I was doing this research, I figured that the language of science is very technical. It has to be. But when it comes to conservation ecological sciences, which deals a lot with people and their relationship with nature, it's equally important that this language should be simplified for people to understand. And that's when I took a leap of faith and I decided to move into communicating science and telling science stories to the world instead of just practicing academics. So I still feel like I've stepped out of academics, but I haven't stepped out of science. All my stories are nestled deeply into published or unpublished science. And I pick up published papers and figure out how to tell a story out of it. And this story is no different. The story of Simlipal's tigers, as well as tigers in central India, is a big collaboration between scientists and Odisha Forest Department. So Odisha Forest Department early on realized that they have these tigers which look a little different. So they reached out to scientists from NCBS to collaborate and find out why these tigers are black and why do they look different. So this study started back in 2018, and then the scientists and managers together figured out that they are black because they have this one genetic mutation, which is like a glitch in their DNA, which is converting them from, instead of orange tigers with black stripes, to black tigers with streaks of orange. So they also found that this mutation is only observed in tigers which are found in Simlipal and no other wild tigers in the wild in the country, which means that this DNA is isolated. These tigers are isolated in Simlipal. Now, managers as well as scientists knew that this doesn't mean that it's a problem to these tigers right now, but it could be 50 or 100 years down the line. So they decided why to wait for it to become a problem. Let's solve it now. If these tigers and DNA is isolated in Simlipal, let's figure out a way to bring in diverse set of DNA. So the managers of Odisha Forest Department collaborated with Maharashtra Forest Department, and they captured and brought in two female tigresses from Tadoba and released them in Simlipal. So after many decades, I assume there is finally a fresh set of DNA that is released in Simlipal. And the hope is that these black tigers would mate with these new females, and the progeny that comes in near and far future would break this cycle of inbreeding and isolation. So the long-term survival of these tiger population in Simlipal is secured.
So the tigers that were brought in from Tanoba, were they also black tigers or they were
No, they are regular looking tigers,
right?
and Tadoba is known to have good corridor connectivity with many other forests around. So the genetic diversity of those tigers is very varied. So that's why it was thought that they'll bring in tigers from there.
Why would it have been a problem in the future? They would have just sort of become extinct.
We don't know that yet, but we know that when tigers are isolated, or any species of living being, if it is isolated, after a few generations, they start meeting with each other, which is called inbreeding. Inbreeding is not very healthy for any species in very long run. That means that if they are inbreeding and one wrong genetic mutation happens, which has immediate deleterious or bad effects, that mutation gets carried into other population, rest of the population very quickly. So it it could happen tomorrow, it could not happen for 100 years, but the recipe for something bad to happen is there. So the whole idea was not to wait for it to happen. Let's solve it way before it happens.
Are black tigers, is this the only spot on Earth which has black tigers, or are they available? Are they there in the rest of the world as well?
That's a great question. The only place on our planet where these black, or
Wow.
what we call pseudomelanistic tigers, are found is in Simlipal. As of recent tiger estimates that came from the forest department, there are close to 29 or 30 adult tigers there, and close to half of them are these pseudomelanistic or black looking. That means that we are looking at 12 to 15 individuals that walk on our planet. That's it.
Wow. I mean, that's really rare.
That's pretty cool. Yes.
Yeah. So, do they behave differently, or are they really, or they behave just like the other tigers that we know?
That's a great question. So, this is my understanding that every population of tiger behaves a little different based on the environment that they have. Now, these tigers are shy. They don't see humans regularly, so they like to be shy, and that makes
Not
my
like
job
the
harder.
Not like the Ranthambore tigers who will
No,
lie down on the
just lie down and
road.
come in front. No,
Yeah,
these
they just
tigers
pose
are
for you.
comparatively very shy. And honestly, except for few places where tigers are used to tourism, most of the tigers are shy. They like to be shy. They do
But
not like to be seen
shy
regularly.
doesn't mean that they're feral. They're just shy.
Yeah. First of all the tigers that are outside captivity, they are all wild. Even inside captivity, they are still wild. In India, you don't, unlike some American places where you can own a tiger. In India, you cannot own a tiger. They are
Thank
all
God.
wild. They are all wild. That's a good thing. But the Simlipal tigers are comparatively shy, and they are skittish, and they do not come in front of you just to sit around. So that makes my job to document and photograph them. That makes manager's job to protect them is becomes harder.
So let's talk about how you did this. It took you a month of uh, stalking, waiting, a lot of patience.
Much longer than that, actually. I spent close to 120 days in Simlipal trying to get this picture. And I knew, and my collaborators and my editors and my photo engineers who really helped me to crack these photos from National Geographic, we all knew that it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be straightforward. That I just roam around and a tiger will show up and I'll photograph and we'll move on. It's not only about getting a photo. It's about getting the photo, right? It's the ultimate photo that you have to get. So what we did is we decided to move in with camera traps. So camera traps are the contraptions where we set up a studio in the forest on trails where we know that tigers move. And these studios are designed in a way that there's an infrared beam, and anything that interrupts that beam, the camera takes a photo of it. So I am not there to disturb the animal at all. Yeah, I'm somewhere far away. So we deployed these cameras in many different places inside Simlipal. And even with that, it was very hard because tigers move differently in different places, and my understanding and knowledge about these tigers were limited. So I had to rely with forest department and their knowledge. But eventually, and it kept raining there, and there's animals coming and elephants breaking the cameras. It's an hour long conversation of all the things that went wrong. But then finally, on 115th day of me camera trapping in this forest, we actually got a picture that me and my editor we were happy about. That what, there's a complete picture. We doubt that we are going to get a better picture than this. So let's move to the next location in Maharashtra to continue the story. And then I started removing my deployed cameras, and my permits were going to end on 120th day. And I think 118th or 119th day, we were driving, and one of these tigers literally in flesh and blood showed up in front of us. And that's when I managed to get this picture. And I'm not very spiritual, but that day it really felt like the forest was blessing me. It was just looking at me working there for 100 days, and it was like, okay, we saw you work. This is our parting gift. And it made it to the cover of National Geographic magazine.
I always feel wildlife is much less feral than and much less violent than human beings.
I think wildlife is just fascinating. I think, sure, tigers are charismatic, but if you spend enough time looking at that spider web and spider outside your window, you'll realize how charismatic the story of that spider is as well. So I think we all think that wildlife is about tigers and elephants and lions, but I've spent better part of my career working on really non-charismatic looking species like a frog and a giraffe looking bird. And I truly believe that they all are fascinating if we spend enough time with them. They all have crazy stories to tell.
Is India one of the last places on earth, despite deforestation, despite rampant construction? Is India one of the last places on earth where you still have unexplored species?
I don't think that's true. I think there are many places on our planet where we are still unraveling mysteries of nature. We are still finding new species, and India is one of them. India is definitely more complicated than many of those places because we are not just a country with elephants and tigers and leopards and lions and vipers and king cobras. We are also a country of 1.4 billion, and we are still growing. On top of it, we still have respect and curiosity and love for wildlife. I think that makes India extremely unique. What is happening in India today is going to happen to the rest of the world as well as their populations grow. So the challenges we are facing and the solutions we are coming up today are going to be the blueprint for the rest of the world to solve their issues as their populations grow.
This is one case that I had no clue about. Are there other such stories where we really don't know about species and they're just, waiting to be photographed, waiting to be discovered in a way by the world for
Absolutely,
their
there are
wonder and beauty?
That's a great question. Absolutely. There are many such stories that are in India. And I wouldn't tell that right now here. Tell those stories as time goes forward.
But you are tracking those.
Absolutely. I think that is what I do. I really want to tell incredible stories of fascinating wildlife from India. Also, the relationship between people, communities, and wildlife. At the same time, these stories are nestled into deep rooted science and hardcore management in preserving these species. So, the heart of my storytelling is collaborations with scientists, collaborations with conservationists, collaborations with forest managers. And I try to become the vessel to tell the story of their hard work to the world.
There's specific pockets in India where you still can see nature uh, and people in very close contact. I would say Kerala is one of those places still. A lot of places in Odisha, for instance, Chhattisgarh. Are there these pockets where we can learn from in terms of how people have tried to integrate their lives with nature and still develop?
Oh, that's a great point. I feel there are not few pockets. I think India is a great example where there's no one city where you do not have wildlife. Any city, you drive out and you go to the outskirts and you'll start seeing some other the wildlife there. So
I mean,
with that in mind, India is just
which city
magical.
on earth, for instance, has peacocks still? You know,
Which city on earth has a city like Mumbai has leopards in it,
leopards.
right? Yeah, I'm in Bangalore right now and I keep seeing cobras and vipers regularly, right? I grew up in Nagpur and we had a lot of wildlife coming in and around Nagpur. So most of the cities in India, even in Delhi, you go in the outskirts of Delhi and you have wildlife and blue bulls and peacocks and everything around. So yes, we do have challenges, but at the same time, wildlife and humans are coexisting in India, and I think those are the multiple stories that I have tried to tell in the last 10 years that I've worked on. And my first story about Western Ghats and mountains showed how in Western Ghats, humans and frogs and birds are living together. And that was my first story for National Geographic. My next story was about living root bridges, about how humans have created this new incredible way of bioengineering to cross bridges and build bridges out of ficus trees. It's a relationship between people and
Where was
trees.
this? Where was
This was in
this?
Meghalaya, and the story was
Meghalaya.
published in
Oh,
National Geographic
oh,
in
those,
2019. The living root
rope
bridges.
bridges,
Absolutely.
made of branches, right?
Absolutely.
Fabulous.
Then I did a story on mountain goats, and then I did a story about snow leopards and human relationship. And now we are doing this story about tigers. And black tiger is one part of this larger story. If you get a chance, please do read the story, which is about Odisha and Maharashtra Forest Department trying to work together to solve this mystery and problem of isolation. But it also focuses on tigers that live in human landscape in Maharashtra. So I think India is just fascinating when it comes to humans and our population's love, respect, and tolerance towards wildlife.
You know, one of the
Tolerance of
things,
wildlife, just to
yeah,
finish my thought, tolerance of wildlife towards humans as well. I think
yeah.
it's equally important. Yes.
One of the things that has always struck me, Prasenjit, is this idea also that, our movies are now also recognizing the spirits in trees, or, the idea of the wolf, for instance. All these movies that are doing so well,
Yes.
Spree, and all of them are emanating from wildlife in a way, from the forest, and those are myths that are local stories, folk stories, and people are now sort of taking those and developing those as stories that people want to watch, or want to be entertained by. How do you see that?
I think it's beautiful if it is done responsibly. I think it's extremely important. we all learn from pop culture. We all learn from
Yeah.
movies. India is one country where we adore all our movies.